Vank leaned back in his worn but comfortable chair in the corner of the bar, feeling the familiar creak of old leather. This was his favorite spot on the bustling space station orbiting the planet Voris Prime. From here, he could watch the myriad of alien races come and go, sharing stories, striking deals, and sometimes seeking his wisdom. Vank was an ancient spacer, his knowledge of the sector unparalleled. He had traveled to nearly every system and planet in his 200 galactic years. Young spacers often approached him for tales of his adventures, but Vank had grown tired of wandering. He had found solace in this station, where he could observe the galaxy in motion without having to partake in its endless journeys. Vank's peaceful evening was interrupted by a tall insectoid alien. The creature towered over him, at least 3 meters tall, with spindly arms and a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed under the bar's dim lights. Its compound eyes glimmered with an unplaceable familiarity. "You are Vank of the Venari," the alien stated, its voice a clicking buzzing sound. Vank squinted up at the alien before responding, "I am." "And you are?" "I am Zor of the Zenari," the alien replied. "Ah, the Zenari," Vank's memory clicked into place. The Zenari were a reclusive race from the edge of the galaxy, rarely seen without their exosuits. They had a reputation for their fierce territoriality and martial prowess, having carved out a significant domain over the last few decades. Without waiting for an invitation, Zor sat down next to Vank. "I have heard you know much about this sector," Zor said, his tone straightforward. "Yes, I do," Vank replied, curious where this conversation was leading. "Good. You will come with me," Zor said bluntly. Taken aback, Vank asked, "Why would I do that?" "To meet my leaders." "You will be welcomed and compensated," Zor assured him. Vank considered this. Payment always changed things. "And where exactly are we going?" "Compartment 12, Level 3, Zor replied. So they were on the station, Vank mused. "Lead on." They walked through the bustling corridors of the station for about 15 minutes before arriving at the compartment. When the door opened, Vank was surprised to see a room filled with Zenari. There were about a dozen of them, and Vank quickly deduced that half were guards. Unlike Zor, these Zenari wore elaborate robes and ceremonial armor. Zor bowed to one of the Zenari. "This is Vank of the Venari, as requested, Your Grace." A Zenari stepped forward, their exoskeleton adorned with intricate patterns and jewels. "I am Arxa, High Matriarch of the Zenari." "Thank you for coming, Vank." Vank bowed slightly. "It is an honor, High Matriarch." Arxa gestured for Vank to sit. "We require your extensive knowledge of this sector, Vank. We are embarking on a new campaign and need information on the races we might encounter, their strengths, their alliances, and their vulnerabilities." Vank felt a chill. "You're planning a conquest?" Arxa nodded. "Yes, and we wish to avoid unnecessary bloodshed by understanding our potential adversaries." Vank took a deep breath. "I have no desire to aid in war," he said firmly. The High Matriarch nodded. "We understand your hesitation. We offer you 3 million galactic credits for your assistance." Vank's mind raced. That was a fortune. He could buy a small moon with that kind of money. He wrestled with his conscience but eventually nodded. "I will provide the information you seek." Arxa smiled. "Thank you, Vank." A Zenari warrior stepped forward, projecting a holographic map of the sector. "We plan to engage the Aruan first. We've heard they are formidable but are spread thin. What do you know of their capabilities?" Vank's eyes widened. "The Aruan are a warrior race. They have few systems, but their military is advanced and their warriors highly trained. They won't be an easy target." The High Matriarch's expression hardened. "We will take that into consideration." "What of the Minis?" "The Minis are a peaceful race but are protected by a coalition of allies, including the powerful Selda Republic. Any attack on them would provoke a significant military response." The room was silent as the Zenari leaders absorbed this information. The High Matriarch then spoke, "And what of the humans?" "We have heard they are afraid of war." Vank laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Afraid of war?" "No, they fear what war makes them become. The humans are a young race but incredibly adaptable and resilient. They have a history of brutal internal conflicts, and when pushed, they can be relentless and merciless. The High Matriarch's eyes narrowed. Explain. Vank recounted the history of humanity's rise, their early spacefaring days, and the catastrophic wars that had shaped them. They learned from every conflict, becoming more efficient and deadly. If you attack them, they will retaliate with a ferocity you cannot imagine. Arxa seemed to ponder this. We have underestimated them, it seems. Vank nodded gravely. And if you threaten their home, they will stop at nothing to protect it. The High Matriarch looked at the map, deep in thought. Thank you, Vank. Your information is invaluable. Vank stood, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. I hope you use it wisely. As he left the compartment, Vank couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. He had given the Zenari what they wanted, but he had also sown the seeds of caution. Only time would tell if it was enough to prevent another war in this fragile sector of the galaxy. Part 2. The Consequences. 3 years had passed since Vank provided the Zenari with his knowledge. The sector had been in turmoil ever since. Vank now spent most of his time in the same corner of the bar, quietly observing the fallout from his actions. The Zenari had heeded some of Vank's warnings. They initially avoided direct confrontation with the humans, focusing instead on the Aruan and other smaller races. But the campaign was far from smooth. The Arcturians, though spread thin, put up a fierce resistance. The Zenari found themselves bogged down in a protracted conflict, and their resources were stretched to the limit. Meanwhile, the humans had not been idle. They had learned of the Zenari's ambitions and began fortifying their systems. They formed alliances with several other races, including the Selda Republic and remnants of the Taysan survivors. Vank's warnings had reached sympathetic ears, and a coalition was formed to counter the Zenari threat. One evening, as Vank nursed a drink, a familiar figure approached his table. It was Zor, looking more haggard than before. May I sit? Zor asked, his voice tinged with weariness. Vank nodded. Of course. What brings you back here, Zor? Zor sighed as he sank into the chair. The campaign has not gone as planned. The Aruan have been relentless, and the humans, they have rallied an impressive coalition. Vank sipped his drink thoughtfully. I warned you about underestimating the humans. Zor nodded. You did, and for that, I am grateful. Your information has saved many of our lives, but it seems our leaders were too arrogant to fully heed your warnings. Vank leaned back. And what of the High Matriarch? She has been deposed, Zor said quietly. A faction within our own ranks, unhappy with the direction of the war, took control. They are seeking peace now, but the damage has been done. Vank shook his head. Peace will be hard to come by. The humans and their allies have long memories, and they won't easily forget the Zenari aggression. Zor's antennae drooped. I know. That's why I'm here. The new leadership wants to negotiate directly with the humans. They believe you might be able to facilitate a meeting. Vank raised an eyebrow. Me? Why would they think I can help? Because you understand them, Zor replied. You know their history, their mindset. We need someone who can speak to them on our behalf, someone they might listen to. Vank considered this for a moment. He had no love for war and had always regretted the role he played in the Zenari's initial plans. I'll see what I can do, he finally said, but I make no promises. The humans are not easy to sway. A week later, Vank found himself aboard a human diplomatic vessel, the Serenity Star. The ship was sleek and functional, a testament to human engineering. He was escorted to a meeting room where representatives from the human coalition awaited. The lead diplomat, Ambassador Morgan, was a stern-faced woman with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through any facade. Vank of the Venari, she greeted him. We've heard much about you. Vank bowed slightly. Ambassador Morgan, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Morgan gestured for him to sit. We understand you have a proposal from the Zenari. Vank took a deep breath. Yes, the new Zenari leadership seeks peace. They realize the mistake of their previous aggression and wish to negotiate terms. Morgan's expression remained unreadable. And why should we trust them? The Zenari have caused untold suffering and chaos in this sector. They are desperate, Vank replied. Their internal strife has weakened them significantly. They know they cannot win this war and they fear total annihilation. They are willing to make significant concessions to end the conflict. Morgan leaned back, her eyes never leaving Vank. What kind of concessions? Territorial withdrawals, reparations, and disarmament, Vank listed. They are also willing to hand over those responsible for the most egregious acts, including the former High Matriarch and her war council. The room was silent as the human representatives considered this. Finally, Morgan spoke again. We will need more than words, Vank. We need guarantees. Vank nodded. Of course. The Zenari are prepared to establish a neutral zone monitored by the Selda Republic and other neutral parties. They will also open their borders to inspections and peacekeeping forces. Morgan exchanged glances with her colleagues. This is a start, but it will take time to build trust. We will agree to preliminary talks, but the Zenari must show good faith by beginning immediate withdrawals from contested systems. I will convey your terms, Vank said. And thank you for giving them this chance. Part 4. The Aftermath. Months passed, and slowly the sector began to stabilize. The Zenari withdrew from occupied territories, and reparations started flowing to the affected races. The Selda Republic and other neutral parties set up monitoring stations and peacekeeping forces to ensure compliance. Vank continued to play a crucial role in the negotiations, acting as a mediator and advisor. His knowledge and impartiality earned him respect from all sides. One day, as he sat in his favorite chair at the bar, now a symbol of hope and reconciliation, a young human approached him. Are you Vank? The young man asked. Vank smiled. I am. My name is Alex, the young man said. I just wanted to thank you. My family was caught in the conflict, and because of your efforts, we can finally rebuild our lives. Vank's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and relief. Thank you, Alex. I'm glad I could help. As Alex left, Vank reflected on the events of the past few years. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was hope for a more peaceful future. In his small corner of the universe, Vank would continue to watch, guide, and share his wisdom with those who needed it.